Welcome to the Day One Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Adam Daly, and with me today is founder, CEO, designer, Paul Mayne.
Hey guys.
How's it going?
Good.
We're excited to be back on the show today. We've got a lot to talk about, especially with some updates. And before we get into that, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Brett Nord for being an amazing co-host. He did a lot of work with the podcast, and I couldn't be more grateful for him as a colleague, as a coworker, and a friend. So huge shout out to Brett. And I know many users on the Day One community have also expressed that. So thank you. Make sure you give Brett a thank you on the community. He's still part of us, still friend of the team, and definitely love to interact with him as much as we can. And somewhat advises us still, right, Paul?
Yeah.
So
Brett, he will be missed. He's one of the kindest people I know. So he's awesome to have around the office. And I would attribute the kicking off of this podcast and the Facebook group to him and his efforts here.
Absolutely.
So,
Great
awesome
guy. So thanks, Brett. And kind of as we look towards the future of the podcast, obviously it's going to adjust a little bit based on the time we have and what we can get ready for that. So the format's changing just a little bit. We may have fewer guests on, or at least not as frequently. That was a lot of legwork that Brett did on that one.
Yeah.
Talking to our listeners and getting them ready for like an in-person interview, via Zoom or whatever we did. So that's going to change, but we're going to talk about our format kind of going forward at the end of this episode. So stay tuned. But we are going to continue. So keep listening, keep tuning in. It might be a little more infrequently, like what were we doing? Every other week?
Yeah.
So maybe more like a once a month kind of thing. But we still want to do this and use this format to stay in touch with you and share all these great features that we can and give you heads up on stuff that we're working on. So give you a little insight into the company and app development. So we got a big one this time. 4.3 has been released. It is out in the wild right now. And hopefully everybody has had a chance to update. It is a phased release. We've talked about this in the past. When we set out a release of our apps, it goes out to more and more customers over a 7-day period, and that allows us to make sure that things are going well, and if we need to pause that or whatever, we can do that. But that way, we can keep an eye on things. It's really nice, a nice feature that Apple offers us to especially for a smaller developer like ourselves, to get things out there maybe a little more quickly, and then be able to kind of test that as well. So.
Yeah, this was quite a monumental release with a lot of features, and actually just a little insight to our development process. We're exploring and working towards getting more into a more regular release cycle, where ideally we would have a release every 2 weeks. This one, like previously, we've been going like 5-6 weeks between releases, and they become these monumental updates with a lot in there, which often there's things that are missed, and we'll have to do a quick bug fix release. So we've been making plans internally to try and address that, but yeah.
Yeah, but 4.3 is huge, though, both on iOS and Mac. Both of them are out. And I guess one of the biggest ones that we should just jump right into is PDF support. This has been a long time coming, I think. Not only for us, but also user requests. We did see a lot of this. When are we going to support PDFs? And it's here.
Yes.
So hopefully you're enjoying it and checking that out, adding PDFs to your entries. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it makes it more of a utility, and I think the proper way to capture something that that's like a written document is in the PDF format versus a static image, because it could be it helps preserve a lot of the formatting of the document, and can be made to for printing purposes and for searching and scannability. So PDF is superior to image in a lot of ways, so it makes a lot of sense to have that in Day One. Mm-hmm. So took us a while to get it in there, but I think we did a great job.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So you can add them right in your entry as you're editing it. Tap the paperclip icon and go to the browse button so you can go and search through your files to add PDFs. You can also share them via the share extension or drag and drop on Mac and iPad. Those are ways to get PDFs into the entries. A couple of things to note about maybe limitations. Each PDF is limited to 100 megabytes per file. And then you can add, like the other media, audio and video, you can add up to 30 media per entry. So you could have up to 30 PDFs in a single entry. And it's really great. Once you add them in there, you tap on the PDF and it will expose a preview where you can see all of the pages in the entire PDF. So that's really cool. And then there's also a more menu on the PDF image itself in the entry where you can share it or you can delete it if you need to. So really great support. I think this is a beautiful feature.
Yeah, it's really helpful. One thing that we to look out for is we are making updates to support PDF in the PDF export and book printing ability. So currently it will ignore PDFs. Maybe it will actually include the thumbnail, but multi-page PDFs are not supported in our export utility yet. But we've been making great strides in rebuilding our PDF export book printing abilities, and we're onto something that's going to be really nice.
Yeah.
A lot more customization and better formatting and support for media.
That's what I'm excited about too. The formatting of the PDFs, kind of more aligning what it looks like in the app itself, and I think that's something that some of our users want. I'm excited for that too. So it's quite a big project too, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, rebuilding this whole thing, because we've been using a third-party tool to do the PDF exports before, right?
For a while, we used PDF Expert, and but for the past couple of years, we've just relied on the built-in Apple's PDF APIs, and that's great. But we're taking a whole new approach that basically mimics what's in the entry, and we'll have a lot more flexibility.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, and I like that too, because I'm a big photo journaler. That's probably the majority of my my entries are mostly photos and just a couple of lines of text. And when we introduced the new photo layouts in the entries, where they'll maintain their aspect ratios and they look really nice, kind of a mosaic, if you will, if you're adding multiple photos. And I think that'll be great to see that in the PDF exports and the book printing. So that's why I'm very excited about that.
Nice.
In addition to adding PDFs, you can also scan documents now in day one. Isn't this exciting? So same way, go into your entry, tap the paperclip icon, and then tap scan. And this will bring up a scanning window. Obviously, camera permission is needed. But I was playing with this morning, and it will automatically grab an image of a document that you have laying on your desk. And lighting's got to be all right. I've tried different scanning apps and stuff like that. But once you get that lined up, it'll automatically capture an image for you, or you can manually tap the shutter button and capture that. And you can capture multiple images, save them all at once, and it adds it in one PDF. Very cool.
Yeah, what's really cool about that is you can do it from an angle, and it will automatically adjust the scaling factor of the rectangle, so it actually looks like you were scanned it on a flatbed.
That's great.
Yeah,
I love that auto stuff. But even so, if you manually capture it, you can also adjust the corners manually too, right?
Yeah. So it tries to do its best guess, but then you can get it precise.
So cool. Yeah, and they're both supported on, not scanning on Mac, but adding PDFs on Mac.
The way Notes app does it is if you want to do a scan, it actually just fires up your iPhone camera, and then you scan with that, and it pumps it right into the Mac app.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yes, I think we can do the same there. There's a lot of utility for this, and most commonly I think would be somebody that wants to transcribe or bring a written journal into day one. I think that's this is the right way to do it, where you can preserve the actual images into a single PDF, but then you could go and then manually type out if you would like, or read it and have it transcribed to actual text in the entry.
That's so, but we don't support like OCR where it's recognizing the handwriting.
Not automatically yet. Yeah, that's something that we want to explore in the future.
That would be super cool. Very cool. Talk to us about streaks. This is, I now have a competition with myself, and I try not to let it become about the streaks, but I love having a little fireball next, on my timeline. What enhancements have we added here for streaks?
Yeah, so we started capturing streak information a couple updates ago, but it was only visible in the timeline stats. So we've now brought that over to a full dedicated page for streaks that's available in the journal drawer, and it shows streaks for overall all your journals, but each individual journal as well. So any time you've got an entry created in the past day, it'll indicate that number of consecutive days, and then if you have written an entry on that day, then you see the fire icon. So pretty simple, but I think adds some sort of gamification motivation to help build your journaling habit. That's that's ultimately what we're all about. We want to help you build the habit, and so this is one of the first features that is geared towards that. And I think we've seen streaks used in a lot of social media apps and other ways that encourage, I would say, somewhat of an unhealthy usage of technology. But so I think we're justified in trying to use this same idea for a healthy way. So yeah, that's fun, and I think taking that further, we also started capturing in 4.3 the duration of time that you spend writing in an entry. Yeah. That's captured to the entry metadata. So if you write an entry and you open up the metadata, you'll see a field there for edit duration. Like here's one I'm looking at, it's 5 minutes and 7 seconds. So as long as you have the entry open and you're actively typing, if you stop typing, then it will pause the timer that's measuring the time that you spent writing.
Oh, so it's active writing only then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't just leave an entry open and go to lunch and then have like, oh, I've been writing in my journal for 2 hours today. We're trying to keep it accurate so that we can use that as another metric for gamification like streaks.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be the next update in the streaks pages, showing how much time you've spent writing in each journal each day, and maybe we'll have like a week view as well. And hopefully we have some ideas around achievements, and so you could set a goal of, I'm going to write for an hour a week total, and then it'll keep track of that, and you can try and hit that goal. Those are some of the ideas around why we're starting to capture that.
Yeah. And this also adds to the health app on iPhone.
Yeah.
We had a couple of questions, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, so you don't have to. But can we get that added to Mac too for those who are adding entries on Mac, recording those durations, syncing them across, and then it still gets added to the health app somehow? Or I don't know the limitations there, but something that has come up.
There are some complications around doing it, but I think we can do that. Right now, it will. So we've had the feature of sending your active journaling time over to the health app as mindful minutes. Now it's a lot more accurate with this update, where it's actually measuring the writing time. Like I said previously, it was just time in edit mode. So yeah, if you had left it open, you could get some anomalies. So we fixed that, and then we are also tracking it on Mac. I can't remember if it went out in 4.3, but it will be measuring edit time on Mac. Then it's a matter of how do we send that data up, like once it syncs over from Mac to iOS, and then intelligently know like what value to send over to the health app, because we can't communicate to the health health kit from Mac right now. So
some limitations, but obviously something we're considering in the duration on Mac too. So that's great. I think that's fantastic. And I'm in the streaks section of the journal drawer. What's cool about this, you see all your counts, like how many days in a row I've written. And if you've got some journals that don't have anything, you tap on that and you have a contextual menu to create an entry or open that journal or open it to the calendar so you can view kind of what's going on. So a little bit of shortcut there to make sure that you're grabbing those streaks.
Mm-hmm.
For health's sake.
Yes.
For health's sake. And then multi-window support for iPad OS 13.
Yeah, this is so cool. So when iOS 13 beta came out and they introduced this multi-window support, I was geeking out about that, about just the capabilities it exposes for working and computing on an iPad and doing multiple things and having multiple windows. So there's a lot of work to adopt and adapt the app to this new multi-window paradigm, but we got it and worked out all the bugs that I can see, and it's awesome. So there's just this. You explain the feature.
Well, yeah. So while you're viewing an entry, there's a little button up at the top right where you can pop it out into a new window, and it opens up a second window of your entry.
From there, you can easily pull that window up into a floating window, and then you can stack those as well. So you could have as many floating windows stacked, and you pull up from the bottom and kind of see them fan out. It's great for like having an entry, leaving an entry open that you want to revisit, like if you're keeping notes during a conference or during a meeting, but you also want to browse around in your journal or write in a separate entry. So it's a great utility to make a day one even more of a productivity type tool.
Yeah, and I think there's plenty of use cases for that. We have, users that are just journalers where it's just logging kind of life events, photos and stuff like that, but it's also a utility, taking work notes. I mean, I do all my podcast notes, not only for this show, but for a couple other shows that I do, all in day one, and it's super useful to have multi-window where I can be referencing maybe a website or something, because I mean, on my other shows, I'm my own producer, and so we have to fact check ourselves or whatever, but it's great having multiple window support on that. So, and being able to refer back to other entries, like past notes that I've made on other episodes, and have that ready at hand while having my current notes right there. So,
yes,
very cool. All right, now I have to get back because I totally exited out of there.
Templates.
Oh yeah, templates. Templates on Mac are in 4.3. Now these are just templates that you've created on iOS, and now they can be added to your entries on Mac. We don't have the editing or adding new ones capabilities on Mac just yet, but TBD.
Yeah, you can't create a new entry from a template on Mac yet. You can only insert a template to an entry from the content menu, which is the paperclip icon. And so that they are syncing, so templates are synced to your account, and then and so now we've exposed them in a way on Mac, but soon we will have the ability to edit and manage your templates in the Mac preferences for day one.
Yeah, and that'll be great. I think templates really were a big hit. A lot of different ways to log your day or exercise routine, food routine, whatever it is, a Grateful journal template. I think it's fantastic. And with that, there's even more support. If you go into the advanced settings while editing a template, you can add a specific journal that it will open up to, or add specific tags that will already be populated for that template. And then, the next button. That's what I was going to say. The next button is great. So when you load a template into an entry, there is, and type under your first heading, there's a new next button right above the keyboard. And as you tap that, it'll jump down to the next section. Very cool way to easily navigate through the templates without having to go back up and tap into the field. So
yeah, and it'll cycle through any H6 header, and that just makes inserting your responses to your template headers a lot easier. Adding the ability to attach a journal and tags makes it really nice. If you have a specific journal or a specific template that you want in a specific journal, you don't have to navigate around or rely on using the reminder. You can actually just use the plus button, and once you've used that template, it'll show up in the last used or most used right there. So it's just like one tap to insert your entry, and it'll apply the template in the right place, so with the right tags.
Yeah, super cool. Very cool. Templates are great. I'm excited about that one. I use 2 of them frequently, but that's about it. But I think the new navigation tools are going to be really slick, especially the journal one too, right? Maybe I'm in a different journal, I tap that plus button, I tap the template, and I'm jumped right into the other one. So
yep.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
On this day, updates.
So yeah, on this day has been probably the most favorited feature of day one for those that have used the app for any period of time. If they've gone for over a year, then they start receiving these notifications about entries on that day, and it's just a delight to kind of reflect back on the anniversary of today. Yep. And seeing what you were doing a year and 2 years ago. Day one's coming up on being 9 years, so I mean I've got eight years worth of entries. I've been pretty consistent since we started day one, so I pretty much have about an entry every day for the past 8 years. And
dang.
So my favorite thing now has been going through the on this day stuff, and just enhancing the entries, like revisiting those moments. But at the same time, now that we have video and PDF support, I can actually attach things and enhance those entries. Maybe I'll add tags and refine the location information if it doesn't have a location. Especially the video thing though, and so we've really made that the ability to do that a lot easier by the updates we've made to the photo picker. So now if you go in and open an entry from a year ago or on any day in the past, and then you open the photo library, it will automatically show you related photos from that around that time or that day. And then you can, if none of those are interesting, you can tap over to library, and your photo library is scrolled to that point in time as well. So you can find relative media that just makes it really easy to add in.
So much easier than scrolling through a huge library of photos. I mean, mine at this point is pretty big. I'm sure others are bigger, but I've got like 12,000 photos and videos like in my library, and like having to go back multiple years, that's crazy.
Previously, it would not only scrolling around was a pain, but the loading time was really slow, and so we've put in a lot of effort here to refine that and make it instant. So like, look, I have a huge photo library as well, and it's loading instantly. Mm-hmm. It makes it we've just made that a lot nicer, as well as that's going in through the photo picker. You can also open up the metadata on an entry in the past, and it will show you photos, any media that's related. It says add related photo media,
and that's right up by the location information.
And it gives you some thumbnails there. You tap on it, and that opens that same media picker to the related content. So that'll give you some insight to even if you have some related media without even having to do much other than open the metadata view.
Yeah, I think that's really great for retroactively journaling. Yeah, I mean, because I have a lot more pictures from before I started working here and using the app more frequently, and so being able to go back into my photos and adding entries to talk about those things so that I have them in one place. I mean, because I think about, what am I going to do with all these photos in my phone, like when I die or something, mm-hmm. right? Who's going to go in and like print all of those out? Like we used to print out photo albums and make these huge books or something. But this way I can go back, add those photos into entries, add them to a book or a PDF
Yeah.
export, and then I've got a physical copy of these great photos. So
Yeah, it's a curation process. I think our photo libraries are full of hundreds of different shots and mix of video and screenshots and lots of things. And so like the stuff that comes into day one, I feel like is the best of those.
Yeah.
And you curate the best stuff and you put those in there, and then you also reflect on that and write about it and describe it. So it's a lot richer, and it's something that ultimately you can consume in a better way. But if you choose to share your journal with somebody, to your posterity or something, that's something that they could actually consume versus just a huge library of media that you may not have context on a lot of things.
yeah, very cool. Should we talk about activity feed and the changes there?
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, one more thing
go ahead.
on this day is I don't know if we've talked about it or if it came in a previous release, but there's the previous and next day buttons.
Oh yes, the filter.
Yeah. So we're still refining some of the on this day how it's presented. We've got this multi-entry view that doesn't yet support like PDF because it renders all the entries as HTML. So we've got some ideas there that we want to explore, but we have added once you go to an on this day, or for example from the calendar, you can choose if you want to view on a day or on a date. A date is just one date with a year, and so you can now cycle to the previous and next days really easily on the timeline under the filter bar.
Yeah, there's a little arrow button with the dates that you can navigate back and forth.
It does the same for on this day, which is that day across all years. And I think on this date is actually interesting in the map view because you can kind of step back through. We don't yet include your location history in there, but if you're pretty active journaling, you can kind of step through and kind of see your history over time as you step back through days. So that's a peek into where we're going with on this day and just kind of improving that whole utility.
I've said it a million times. It's my favorite feature. I love that notification. That's like one of the first things I do in the morning is look at my on this day entries and kind of see, what was going on. What was I doing this time last year? And it's really fun. All right, activity feed. Now this is great. We actually get to have a lot of people who use activity feed pretty exclusively to start their entries. We've heard from people who love being able to tap the more button in there and adding all of their locations to a single entry on where they were that day, or just going back historically and seeing, like say I miss a day, I go back in my activity feed and I can see locations, I can see what photos I took that day, calendar events, etc. Like a really great way to actively journal from different sources, I guess.
Yeah, the activity feed is primarily geared towards creating an entry that, like, presenting the user an easy way, a shortcut to creating an entry that that happened at a specific time, at a specific place, and with related media. There's other uses of it. You can add the full feed of your day to a single entry that kind of shows the times that you were at each location, and that hasn't been really well refined yet as a specific use case of activity feed, but something we're considering as well. But for now, we've made some great improvements around the speed. So that was one of the problems with it previously, is it would just kind of take a long time to process and load. Now it's mostly instant, and you can swipe through the days, and there's a check mark on things that you've created entries on, and so it kind of gives you this to-do list of journal entries to create.
Yeah.
And so we've been making lots of improvements around the speed and the media that's associated, and combining visits, your location history visit, with calendar events and media in your photo library, and unifying those into like one cell that's like, if you want to just like you were at lunch and you had a picture there and you had a calendar event, it makes it so you can just like create an entry without doing much else, and then you can also just expand upon it. So I think next would be having more intelligence in there around identifying what are the best moments that you may want to make sure to write it or capture in your journal, and exposing those in places outside of the activity feed, whether that's similar to like the templates, how they are in the plus menu now for recently used, or integrated into the timeline, something that I think will make it just easier to capture more moments.
Yeah, I like that. Well, and we talked a little bit offline, just kind of this idea of getting away from publicly posting a lot of content. And that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of our users use day one, where they can put in these kinds of things, pictures, comments about what they were doing without being it out in the open, and it's private. It's for them to review. And I really love that. I think as we've talked about many times, it is a super healthy space to be in, to be able to have introspection and maybe get things off your chest, maybe vent, maybe celebrate something, express joy on an event or something like that. And I'm proud to work here because of that vision. You know
Nice.
what I mean?
Yeah, it's such a healthy practice for so many reasons, and people, I think, get the same benefits from using social media, where they're reflecting and appreciating and sharing, but there's a lot of downsides to that as well, and over time, like, that's become very apparent. And so we want to continue encouraging that kind of behavior, but have day one as an alternative to that.
Yeah. Sweet. Anything else we want to add? Is there anything we can know for the future? Maybe possibilities and stuff like that?
Well, a little more on the activity feed is, so in the next update, we are going to be syncing location history, which is all encrypted end-to-end automatically, but it will allow for the activity feed to be useful on devices outside of your primary iPhone. So like if you're on your iPad, you would be able to see the same history of visits, as well as the Mac.
Oh yeah, that's going to be fantastic.
There's a full location history view with all the visits that you can go and edit and manage and things, and so it's a pretty great update.
Yeah, and you'll be able to select if you want which specific devices to sync to. Correct?
Yeah, by default, like the iPad will capture location history, but it will be toggled off from being visible inside of your activity feed. Primarily, I think most people's phone lives with them, and that's where their location history was. So, but if you chose to also have your iPad's history in there, you can do that as well.
Yeah, very cool. Sweet.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, I just want to, with this new podcast format and where we're exploring what we want to do with it, I just want to invite users to ask us questions. We'd love to know what you want to hear about, what you want us to talk about, whatever it may be. Shoot us a question at podcast@dayoneapp.com, and we can, if you want to remain anonymous, let us know that as well. Otherwise, we may mention you by name. And no guarantees we answer every question, but we would like to hear from you and see what you want to know.
Absolutely. I think that's great. I think that's going to be a great way to interact with even more users and be able to address things they want to hear and stuff like that. So awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for joining us, everyone. We're excited to be back on the air. Stay tuned for more episodes. We'll try to post these as frequently as we can. It'll likely be more of a still a bi-monthly or monthly kind of episode release, but we want to talk about the things that you want to hear about. So make sure you write us. Links below. Also, if you need any assistance with anything, please reach out to us. I'll include the links below in the description as well. But you can go to help.dayoneapp.com for all of our help guides, tutorials, tips, and stuff like that. Or contact us. There's a couple of ways to contact us via chat or email, and we'd love to help you out if you need anything. Also, please continue being a part of our Day One community. It's a great place for users to interact and talk about their different uses. And I think a lot of people have been able to get great ideas from each other using, different ideas that people have about how they journal. And while it's not meant for a customer support format or forum, I think a lot of users have helped each other with different questions that they've had, and it's been fantastic. So be sure to check out that community, and be sure to follow us on social media. We love to post there as well. Shout out to our Instagram team, Juice and Ellie, for doing such great campaigns, especially this month. They're doing some gratitude posts, which I think are great, different prompts and stuff. So follow us on Instagram at Day One App. So this is Paul and Adam signing off. We'll talk to you next time.